Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei was true heavenly dragon got harem with Xenovia? Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Stopping to do nothing and just wait is possibly the worst thing to do when you are waiting for something. Time starts to drag on for you and take a long time to pass, the seconds can come to feel like hours. Only luck can change things here, only someone who is lucky could possibly stop everything to wait, will have what they are waiting for to appear, seconds after they stop to wait. I myself am one of those people who rely on luck. Perhaps I should say that my whole life has gone by according to pure luck. My name is Issei and by chance, I'm a special person. I know the specifics to it but not why. In this world, there are 13 weapons called the Longinus that are granted to lucky human beings. These 13 weapons give the wielder the ability to kill a god. The one I have is a mid-tier one, the boosted gear. The boosted gear holds the heavenly dragon called Drag. He manifests as red gauntlets with yellow spikes and 2 large green circular jewels at my elbow and over the top of my hand. His power allows me to boost every 10 seconds. That's all thanks to my human half, but I actually have another half to me, one with a more supernatural presence. At birth I was half human and half angel, but I can't say the same for today. My father was an angel and my mother was a human. I say was simply because they are not alive anymore. A normal person would be distraught at this, but I'm unsure how I should really feel. I never met my father, and my time with my mother was pretty slim, maybe a few minutes in the morning, and then some time dotted in between her 2 jobs which she needed to support us both. Don't get me wrong though, I loved my mother, but with how I'm unsure about it, I feel like it was obligatory love to my mother. After the death of my mother, I was taken in by my friend's parents as I literally had no other relatives. My friend was Irina and was actually one of the 2 girls I was waiting for. Both of Irina's parents knew about my father and so they knew about me, therefore they introduced me to their religion. Christianity, something that I could never fully integrate with. My human and dragon side rebelled and caused me to have thoughts or desires that strayed away from their path at times, but this didn't mean I was disrespectful at all. I was still involved in the religion, I prayed when I woke up, I never swore, and I would attend church with them. And just before the age of 10, we moved away from where we lived in Japan to England and joined the Protestant church, where Irina and I would learn more and progress into what we are today. That didn't go as they had wanted, but things didn't turn sour either, you could say a fortuitous thing happened. Upon our entrance to the Protestant church, both Irina and I were tested. My tests went a lot better than Irina's did, and because of it I awakened the boosted gear, and my affinity for fire shined. It also came to light that I was a natural-born holy sword wielder, and promptly given an actual holy sword, rather than the standard light swords. I wasn't given the sword straight away as I still had to become an exorcist first after going through all my training, the problem being that I wouldn't be training with Irina and her parents. I was taken straight to Italy, but more specifically the Vatican, the church's stronghold, and where the top exorcists in the world live. This was where my blood as an angel shined. I didn't have to take time to learn Italian, as I somehow knew every language, just because I was half angel. Still though, that itself brought me much unwanted attention. I was stared at like a caged animal, whether it was as an angel or as this generation's security. Either way I was being stared at weirdly, but here was where my life started to improve and become something I could happily enjoy. No more school, just training. I learned to fight using my bare hands, swords and fire magic, but I was to learn holy magic in my own time as none of them could. I learned martial arts through their trainers, and I learned how to wield a sword from Griselda Quarta, the strongest female exorcist who was also the Vatican's quartermaster. One of her jobs was to personally train and supply the recruits that held the most potential, so that was me and one other person, a girl who was called Xenovia, and the last of the 2 girls that I was currently waiting for. Xenovia was like me, a natural-born holy sword wielder, but she was not part angel like me, nor held a sacred gear, but what she did have was something extremely close to my Longinus. She held Durandal, one of the 5 holy swords and possessor of immense power. Our days together as students of the sword went by quickly and happily. We grew up together, lived together under Griselda's wings, sparred together, ate together, failed together and worked together. But that life only lasted a few years as my growth was different to hers. I progressed at a higher rate, simply because I had to keep my life. As the possessor of Drag, I had an eternal rival. This rival would be the possessor of Albion who was sealed into divine dividing, which was another of the 13 Longinus, with the ability to have an enemy's power and add it to their own. That person's appearance in front of me is eternally foreseen but unpredictable, so I had to strengthen myself and fast, to which I did so. Due to my strange circumstances, I became a fully fledged exorcist at the age of 11 and a half. The youngest exorcist ever. This was when I was granted my sword, I should say swords and guns. As a natural holy sword wielder, it made me a prime candidate to wield one of the 7 Excalibur swords, and the one I was given to wield was Excalibur Ruler, the strongest shard which held the ability to control anything if I wished for it. The second sword I was given was the Holy Dragon Slayer sword called Ascalon, and this sword was given to me personally by the Archangel Michael. I was too great an asset to the church and the angels, so this sword was the best way to defend myself if I was ever to find myself confronting the hacker Yuku. My life completely blossomed from there. I got to travel the world and visit the sites, eat the delicacies and kill their demons. You can't say you've lived till you've done those 3 things at least. The final thing would be love, something I already have. I would do my jobs quickly, sometimes making them sloppy so I could return to the Vatican to see Xenovia and see how she is doing. I loved doing my job, but I hated being away from her more, it was annoying, but something I had to live with till I was 14, when she officially passed her own exam and became a fully fledged exorcist being assigned to me, as in those 2 years I progressed well and became one of the top exorcists. Xenovia herself was given an Excalibur, she was given Excalibur Destruction, and like Durandal fit her personality completely. She was a powerhouse even as a normal human, she used brute force, and due to being taught by Griselda she succeeded. Around that time was when I learned more about angels and in turn myself, as I met 2 archangels properly, which caused my angel side to burn and break through onto the surface, somewhat changing my facade. Becoming one of the top overall exorcists means special privileges, and one of them was communication with the angels. The top exorcist, me, reports to the 4 archangels, which was Michael, Gabriel, Uriel and Raphael. The next 4, rounding out the top 5, would answer solely to them in that order, to which I knew only second and third personally. Dulio Gesualdo, a fellow Longinus holder, reported to Michael, and then Griselda Corda reported to Gabriel. My first job was to kill a devil who was living in Slovakia and working as an informant for the Crimson Satan, Sirzich's Lucifer. That job was where I became officially known as the strongest exorcist. The job started out easily as I was to be joined by the priests that were already there in the area and alerted us of the threat. The thing is that it went south pretty damn quickly. The devil was meant to be by himself while trying to be inconspicuous, meaning we could attack quickly and easily. The problem for us was that we struck minutes before his meeting with the Crimson Satan, who was together with his queen, Graphia Lucifuge. If it wasn't for my balance breaker scale mail and my 2 holy swords, we would never have got away alive. Thanks to my powers we escaped with only 1 casualty, but the priest's casualty came along with 1 strong point for the church. Using ruler to temporarily control the Crimson Satan, I was able to slash open his chest with Ascalon before being forced to retreat myself as Graphia Lucifuge turned to save her king and husband rather than kill my retreating fellow exorcists. That job was half a year to the day, and I have been on a few jobs since then, to which I found out that all devils are extremely wary of me. The only consolation I have from that is that I was in my balance breaker armor, so my face and normal aura wasn't seen, so I would be relatively safe if I was to encounter them again or any other devil. That leads me back to where I started. My life ran on luck, I got through by the skin of my teeth and the powers I was given. I seemed to be lucky in everything, and to which I didn't wait long before Irina and Xenovia appeared before me in Japan. I was only there before them as I had a few things to do beforehand, and one of them was to schedule a meeting with the devil in charge of this area. I was sat down on a bench when the 2 girls arrived, and to which there was no subtlety from them at all. They were dressed in the rather erotic church battle outfits underneath a white hooded cloak that had gold and blue accenting. They stood out in the crowd like me, but we were at different ends of the spectrum. They were the religious end, which in this day and age makes you look weird. I could swear that when I started I was looked at like I was a freak just because I wore priest clothes. So since becoming a top exorcist I changed my uniform to a somewhat casual dress, but I didn't get rid of the Christianity vibe. I wore a dark red long-sleeved dress shirt, black jeans tucked into black military boots. Other than that I had 2 cross pins in my collar, 1 on each side, and a crucifix belt buckle securing my jeans to my waist. The final thing was a crucifix that hung itself around my neck and dangling around my top 2 buttons, which I had lazily left open. Like my 2 friends in front of me, I also had a sword on my person, although it wasn't one of my 2 holy swords. They were both fused with my gauntlets. I had a simple katana with a dark red scabbard resting by my left leg and connected to my belt. Irina had a white rope which hung around her left bicep, that was Excalibur Mimic, which had the ability to morph into any sword or in small item for easy travel. Xenovia though had a bigger problem than us, as Excalibur Destruction was a large 2-handed sword that nearly rivaled her own height. And so it was secured to her back by string, and so not to scare the locals and hide its holy aura it was wrapped in bandages similar to a mummy and held together with a large shield-shaped buckle that held the coat of arms of Vatican City. This in itself amplified the weird looks that were being given. Shall we go then? I asked the two girls the seconds after they stopped in front of me. "Hi, Ice-kun." "Hi, Ice." Both Irina and Xenovia answered me and quietly followed once I stood up and started to walk to the place that housed the devil that was in charge of this particular area. When I came here I found out that two devils actually looked after this area. Sona Sitri, the heiress to Sitri and younger sister to the Mayu, Seraphol Leviathan, and she governs the school and is in charge during the day or more appropriately during school hours. The rest of the time is governed by Ria's Gremory, the heiress to Gremory and younger sister to the Crimson Satan, Serzich's Lucifer. I had spoken to Sona Sitri the day before, but today, I was to speak with Ria's Gremory. I was a little on edge after meeting Sona yesterday, her eyes were penetrating. I could tell she was looking over my entire being trying to figure me out. My eyes give me away slightly, but luckily she didn't make a comment outside of Exorcist. The walk through the town was nice and peaceful, although there was the obvious quiet chatter from the housewives that'd pass us by holding grocery bags or their child's hand. The whole time we walked, I could hear Irina whispering to Xenovia to calm her down. Xenovia was a brash person, she was definitely the type to act out and voice her opinions. She'd probably go as far as to shout at the women, it can be hard to deal with her at times. Passing into the school grounds, it was a little hectic as the students were all leaving and were making their own comments, but they were all teenagers, so their remarks were more mundane compared to the adults. The boys would comment on Irina and Xenovia, to which I can agree with them as they were both rather pretty. I'm pretty lucky to have such an attractive girlfriend and a cute childhood friend. Though if it wasn't for the Vatican the first could fulfill my dream of being the harem king, the worst thing is that Drake can make it happen for me. I can safely say I cried for a while when I learned of this. The girls would compliment my looks, they weren't significant. My looks were pretty average, and my short brown hair wasn't anything much, it was just my eyes, my emerald eyes. My eyes weren't emerald green, but rather just emerald. While working around with subspecies trying to, I changed my eyes from their original light brown to the emerald they are now. An emerald that is the same as the jewels on my gauntlet are an actual emerald itself. My two emerald eyes are due to Excalibur Ruler and Ascalon to be able to use their holy power, rather than my own in simple hand-to-hand combat utilize the transfer ability my boosted gear has. During my experiments with that, I messed up somewhat and made it a permanent thing which doesn't exert any dragonic pressure, making me able to summon their aura to my hands at will, and my eyes stayed the emerald color as a result. A failure that turned out to be good, another part of my random luck. Continuing on through the school, we walked past the main building itself and towards the back area of the school which supposedly contained the old school building. That proved to be true after nearly a minute of trees and a paved path. The building was definitely older than the main building and showed with its windows that weren't modern. The few around the door were completely wooden with slanted strips of wood up the pane, with thin slits in between each one for air. I carelessly passed through the initial front door without a care as I felt many devil-like presences ahead, with 3 of them being high-class level and one of those being a very familiar aura. One of an icy background. Humming to the door, I knocked continuously until it opened. I also made it into a bit of a drum beat, but that didn't seem to be very appreciated by anyone. The person who opened the door for me was none other than Grafia Lucifuge, and yet again, luckily she didn't recognize my aura and we were allowed safe passage into the room, although it wasn't what I had expected. Gremory-san. I asked for just Unatom as well. I pointed at the scruffy-looking blonde standing in the room. From the look of Ria's Gremory, his presence wasn't that welcome. Looking at him, I know who he is. The third son of Phoenix, Razor Phoenix, and also the man who is supposed to be Ria's Gremory's fiancé. Thank the priests-turned-devil-turned-strays for that information. I have to apologize Exorcist-san, but he wasn't meant to be here today. Oh, he wasn't now. My tone confused them, it was too happy for what they expected. It seemed to be another good day for me. Her tone sounded like she was frustrated and the emphasis she put on he told me everything I needed. I would get on the good side of these devils for a while and stop their unity which would only dampen the church. It's pretty win-win. Unknown to my faults, Riaz nodded to me and I turned my gaze towards the man who was just simply ruining the mood. My left eye flashed slightly as ruler was starting to come into effect. Yo big guy, could you disband this engagement between Gremory and Phoenix and then leave? Why? His voice was submissive, no sign of irritance at all. I was a little surprised myself, let alone the people around me. You're in my way. I came here to politely talk to Ria's Gremory about a dire subject that she needs to know about. Oh then allow me to apologize sir. I will disband the engagement for you right now. Thanks Razor-kun, very appreciated. I smiled playfully as I saw him summon a few pieces of paper to hand and tear them up into quarter pieces before burning them with his phoenix flames. He then bowed to me and then Riaz and then finally Grafia. I, Razor Phoenix, humbly declined this engagement between myself and Ria's Gremory. I tilted my head slightly and looked to Graphia out the corner of my eye, who was looking between me and Razor rather suspiciously. You hear that, strongest queen? I have. I will inform the masters after you have gone, Exorcist-san. I put my hands out as to say what are you gonna do? I then turned my playful gaze back to Razor who stood still, standing tall awaiting my upcoming words. That's a good birdie. Okay, final thing from me. You will teleport away once I finish and when you do, you will forget all about me, but remember that you disbanded the engagement and that you are okay with it. You have had a complete change of heart and it is what you want the most, you want Ria's Gremory to just be happy and nothing else. Absolutely nothing else will make you happy, both in innocent and dirty versions. A second after I stopped talking Razor disappeared away in a flurry of flames, allowing me to relax somewhat, causing my left eye to flash again. I walked into the room and plunked myself down on the free sofa, to which Xenovia and Irina parked themselves on either side of me with Xenovia placing her bandaged sword next to her resting against the arm of the chair. I simply waited without a word for the remaining devils to recollect themselves and for Rias to sit down opposite me so I could begin why we are here. To which when she did so, I smiled again playfully. Now, I want to talk about a little thing called Excalibur. Once I mentioned the word Excalibur the atmosphere darkened, but more importantly it had a center, the more appropriate term in this case would be I for a potential storm. The only boy as Ria's Gremory's peerage looked to have a shadow casted over the top half of his face, just hiding his eyes from my vision, but I could tell he was annoyed by the word. If he is taking it this badly then he could be a survivor of the experiment from years ago. If so then it may be better to get Xenovia and Irina to leave now seeing as their Excaliburs are on their person. Deciding to do just that, as Ria's queen was pouring cups of tea I spoke up. Xeno, Irie-chan, shouldn't you two be leaving now? I asked them this cheerfully, but they both looked at me like I was stupid or had a death wish. Ice-kun, we can't leave you here with all these devils. You might not think they are bad but we do. Xenovia didn't stay seated though, she got up and left during Irina's speech. You know Irie-chan, you say it like I'm gonna listen to your opinion. You know I'm not gonna do that. I replied back to her again still in my cheery tone as I picked up my cup of tea and started to sip from it. Irina then breathed a deep sigh of annoyance before getting up and quickly following after to Xenovia and try and find her, hopefully they'll think about getting groceries or starting to find clues about why we are here. As Ria's queen made tea for Rias and Graphia, I picked up my legs and patted my boots with my hands cleaning them off everything and then onto the sofa I was sat on, so I was now in a crossed-leg position. While continuing to drink my tea, I cast my gaze at her servants. The boy had to be her knight, I could tell by the way he held himself alone, it was samurai-ish modern-age samurai. The petite girl here in the room, she had to be a Nekomata the subtle hints gave it away and then there was the hair clips of a cat. That classification would mean a rook or a bishop maybe, her size would probably make her a rook. Then there was the blonde-haired girl here that seemed to know me and if my memory is correct I know her too, she would be Asia Argento I believe. She was a girl that was kicked out of the church for healing a devil, that was something I tried to deal with myself, but my rank and experience stopped me from getting anywhere. I remember speaking to her once or twice before she was let go, almost like they were firing her from a job. The final one would be the queen, a half-blood like myself, although she is the tainted side compared to me. We are opposites in a way. My holy is pure whereas hers is tainted. My dragon side is the embodiment of power where her devil side is the embodiment of greed. I guess she found it to be a shame that the evil piece did not take away the fallen angel half, too vital a part for devils to get rid of. A potential holy user as a servant is a good find for devils. Then it's the master herself, Ria's Gremory. Good specs but terrible application by the looks of it, possibly from family being overprotective or burden, because her brother is seen to be a prodigy. Other than that she is hot, a body to die for and breasts I just want to place my face between. Then there is her hair, a lovely crimson which is a part of the color I love so much. Red, the color of intense things, love, lust, blood and passion. Exorcist-san, could you please get on with why you are here? Ria's Gremory's voice breaks me from my musing and back to the room itself. Please Gremory-san, use my name. I am Haidu Issei. Alright then Haidu-san, why are you here? That's easy. 3 of the Excaliburs are here, some idiots allowed them to get taken. I was forced to come and collect them. I answered her like the topic was nothing, it wasn't nothing really. It was a big problem, the Excalibur is a symbol to us and one of 5 holy swords and the only one to be broke but still able to be used. Even for the other factions the Excaliburs are a thing to talk about. This isn't exactly a light topic. And the other 3? 3? There are 4 others. Isn't Excalibur ruler missing? No, should it be? I gasped at her playfully surprising her and the other devils. Exorcists aren't exactly well known for being friendly people, not even to other exorcists. The job kinda dulls it, but not for me. I think the dragon and angel aspect masks that and allows me to be playful. You saw ruler in action a few moments ago. The two girls earlier hold destruction and mimic, while the cheap-ass exorcist holding blessing is on standby just in case I fail. And pray tell why you might fail. Oh, that would be Cacabiel. Supposedly he stole him. I'm guessing he wants to kill you and Citri. Gabriel Nee called him a warmonger. Yet again I said something important like it was nothing. The moment I mentioned Cacabiel, Graphia seemed to shift slightly and even more so when I said Gabriel. Cacabiel? Are you sure, Haidu-san? Graphia was the one to ask me in a rather worried expression. Yeah, I have no reason to lie, but I don't see why you're worried. I'm telling you this so you will stay away, although the idiots there do seem to think you might be working with Cacabiel, which is pretty ridiculous. Do what you will with the information, you now know what may happen. If you value your lives then please stay out of our way. Cacabiel will happily kill you on sight, my two exorcists probably will as well. And you, Haidu-san. Maybe the male devils here. I was then interrupted by a yawn which came from my own mouth. I may not. Do you want me to kill them? No. Riaz answered me rather sternly, completely pushing my lazy reply and expression aside. Then I won't. That should conclude everything, I think. You know there are 3 exorcists, missing Excaliburs, Cacabiel, to stay away in me. Yeah, I think I'm done here. I jumped off the sofa by pressing my legs downwards, propelling my body upwards into the air, giving me room to stretch out my feet and allow them to slide down against the edge of the sofa and quickly connect with the wooden flooring beneath me. Wait, Haidu-san, you never explained to us about yourself. I didn't. They saw that I could use magic, they know I'm a happy guy. I wonder what else they would like to know. What is there for you to know? I didn't think you devils wanted to know anything about us other than we wield bad things. I speak to her calmly and easily, ending my sentence like I was talking to a child. My tone wasn't one to which I was being mean, it's just my way of speech, but they don't really know me, so her annoyance showed up on her face. Those 2 girls before were human, but you aren't. What are you? I let out a slight angered grunt at her saying that I wasn't human. I am a human, even if it's only just now. I turned to my side and looked at Graphia, who continued to wear a passive expression, one that I felt like would only change if I was to bring up 6 months ago. Graphia-chan, your sister's senses are pretty shoddy. It's not her fault you mask yourself, Haidu-san. That certainly is true, Graphia-chan. She was right, but the thing is that I just masked my dragon and angel side, so only my human side should be seen unless I failed at that and mask it all, making some extremely strange concoction. And that actually sounds like it would be true. I can believe myself somehow doing that. Okay then, how about this? What if I said I have a sacred gear that caused a problem 6 months back and that messes with being a human? You have a sacred gear? Graphia's interest was piqued, she was starting to wonder if I was the culprit, to which she would be spot on, but the others didn't seem to fully understand my words. That must have been why Riaz asked me about a sacred gear. Not saying yes, but I'm not saying no, try and force it out if you want. I then brought up my left hand with my palm facing upwards towards the ceiling. Riaz was rather hesitant to my proposal, but who wouldn't be? You should never get close to your enemy unless you are going for the kill or perhaps stealing from them. It's 2 choices, but ones that you'll rarely have to come to make. She took a hold of my left hand in both of hers and started to flush her demonic power into the room and into my body. I had her here, she was never going to bring out my boosted gear. Thanks to my standard form being dual gauntlets, she'd need to do both hands at once, but first they'd have to get past the barrier that is set from my angel side. That's one her powers could not surpass. She may have Grimory's enhanced magical prowess, but she barely has any experience. I can both outgun her and outsmart her. My whole time here will be played by my rules well, unless the Citri girl decides to intervene, but she is too smart for her own good, I think. Our supernatural sides resonated and caused my holy aura to leak out and blow back her demonic power. The sudden demonic presence in the whole of my body caused my body to get violent. My aura surrounded me in a golden color, blowing Ria's back harmlessly and making my body sprout 6 pristine white wings and a beautiful gold halo to appear above my head. Riaz and her peerage all stepped back in surprise. I'd be their first angel. Their expressions were priceless. To young devils, angels are beings they've been told about only. Us angels tend to stay in heaven and only descend to earth to deal with dire things, but as both a human and an angel, I am their tool for such things. I turned to look at the girl who I thought to be Asia. She looked at me in amazement. Her aura, her presence and her whole being told me that she was the girl I tried to help out all of those years ago. Asia-chan, it's a pleasure to meet you again. I apologize for not being to help you, but you couldn't really hope for a better family in devil terms at least. Asia brought both of her hands to her chest and balled them together tightly as she closed her eyes tightly while wearing a happy expression. Hi Haidu-sama. Your words are plenty, I was honored that you tried to help me and even spent time talking to me. I'm happy to know that the one person I considered a friend is an angel. As she opened her eyes again, I could see her tear up, but not from sadness. No, the girl was experiencing pure happiness or bliss. Her expression alone causes my heart to tighten, not being able to help her is the only regret I have in my life. Being an angel, being extremely lucky and having the boosted gear has got me far in the church, really far, but they all came to naught when it came to helping one poor little girl who held so much faith she did something wrong. She was scorned for something she was brought into the world to do. Healing people was her life and she did it without reservation, it was her nature to just help people. That led to her undoing, but it was in no way her fault either. We are taught to know what devils are like and what their aura feels like, so why didn't she know? That's because she wasn't taught, and I know that she wasn't. All she was needed for was healing people, so they never bothered going further, we manipulated her for it. This instance and the Holy Sword Project shows that we, the church, can be just as awful as the devils and fallen angels. It's sickening. But these thoughts swimming around in my mind, my mood had changed, but I couldn't afford for Asia to know that, so there was only one thing I could do, and that was smile. Hide behind a fake smile was the only option I had. I allowed my 6 feathered wings to return back into my body as my halo started to fade away from everyone's vision. I turned on my heel and walked to the door. I had my left hand on the door handle for a few seconds before noticing that I was tapping my thumb against the brass. I turned around and looked at Graphia as I felt compelled to tell her something. Neither you nor the Crimson Satan needs to worry. On my honor as an angel, I won't let Ria's Gremory and her peerage get hurt. Good day to you all. I turned back to the door and opened it quickly, closing it behind me, not wanting to hear a reply, and walked out of the building. I walked along the cobble path holding a slight shiver at my spine. It was a familiar feeling, but to my body alone almost like it was purely instinctual. By the time it got too much for my interest, I turned around to see if I was being followed or watched, and when I did, a man of similar height was standing there right in front of me. I'm annoyed to think it, but he was a good-looking guy, short silver hair, slightly taller than me, but I could see that I was slightly buffer, meaning I was stronger physically, even if he was part supernatural like me, to which he was. I could feel a sinister presence within him. At this I could also hear Drake waking up. Seems like the White One has found us, Ibu. The White One, huh? My eternal rival. I wonder if he is up to standard for me. I wonder if he is a nosy chap or one who likes to fight. This means that the shiver was an instinctual warning to make myself ready for potential combat. Drake, how strong am I compared to him? I kept my eyes peeled on my eternal rival as I spoke to Drake, but the appearance of the devils didn't distract me at all, even with Graphia still being there and that the Citri girl had appeared with her peerage in tow. Honestly, I'm unsure, but what I can tell is that he, like you, has begun dealing with the curse, but to what extent I don't know. Considering that smile on his face, I would say he asked Albion the same thing. Looking at him, I can't help but feel strange about all this. Our power levels are similar, and our ages are similar from what I can see, but why have I found him now? My powers as Hakuryuite has been known to be awakened for a number of years now, but not one word has hit my ears about the Hakuryuku, but here he is standing before me at approximately the same power level. This is a problem, a big problem. Those devils might not be safe if we started something here, plus it would give my secret away. I don't think I want to deal with Graphia right now. You here for a fight, White One? I lowered my voice an octave so that hopefully only my rival could hear me. It was something that made his smug smile just widen. Not to the death. Albion says that you are as strong as me, but also slightly different. Unlike you, I'm not really hiding any part of me, but I can still tell your power. You are stronger physically, but I've got you beat on the magic side. So what do you say, Red One, let's fight? He put a mild, mocking type of emphasis when he called me the Red One. I felt uneasy about the whole thing. It felt like an evil plot of some sort. Ibu, I found out why he has higher magic reserves than you. What's that, Drake? He is a Lucifer. A Lucifer? Didn't think I'd find one of them, especially not as my destined rival. That just puts a burden on me. My rival is a descendant of the Morning Star and the holder of Divine Dividing. It really is a good job that Michael gave me Ascalon. Ibu, I know you don't really care for your father after not knowing him, but your father was a top angel. Cassiel wasn't someone to fight blindly. I know, you keep telling me that. Either way, he wasn't as great as the Morning Star, but I'm not really too bothered about that right now. I want to get out of this without showing you, but I'll have to if I want to get away relatively uninjured. That is true, Ibu. Let's just risk the fight for now and only go into balance breaker if need be. I took several steps back away from my rival while he watched me with a keen, observing eye. Getting a decent distance away, I unsheathed my katana, allowing it to be free from its prison and exert its own presence of my pure holy magic, sending it gushing through the school grounds as I harmlessly cut through the air with my blade. Whirling it round within my right hand, I grip a hold of the handle tightly as the tip of my blade is facing the floor, and I plunge it into the ground, allowing it to disperse my magic, caging the school within a barrier of pure holy light in the form of a dome, giving off a slight golden glow. Bringing the sword back up, the blade was no longer there but was now acting as the entire barrier. I placed it back into its scabbard, and the pressure built up around it, locking it into place while I took those few seconds to nod at my rival, saying that I was ready. Vanishing Dragon Balance Breaker. Both Drag and I grunted in sync as our rival entered his balance breaker and was wrapped in a white glow before his body was enveloped by a set of scale mail that was white in color with deep blue jewels at the shoulders, knees and a large one in the center of his chest. Out of his back sprung a set of wings which was a scaled straight ridge with blue glass-like panes extending from it, taking a wing form. I breathed in, allowing my chest to ride up before dropping back down again when I exhaled and pushed the right side of my body backwards, so I faced my rival left side on, while flexing out both of my hands. Hurling Slayer. My emerald eyes flashed along with my words, and two swords flashed into existence, taking their place in my hands. Excalibur Ruler took the form of a broadsword with a golden circular guard that looked like a crown in my left hand. In my right hand appeared Ascalon, a golden pommel on the bottom of sleek black handle which connected to a golden hilt that took the form of 4 dragon claws which spiked downwards to nearly a quarter the length of the blade. The blade itself started off thin with most of the center being shiny purple that was almost dew-like, and as the blade continued on, a thin golden buffer separated the dew-like purple from the silver steel of the blade itself. Starting from the very end of the claws were 3 curved indents that just passed the middle of the blade. Both blades howled out silently, furiously flaring out their aura as they sensed with my own instincts and focused on our enemy and rival, who was my enemy in 2 forms, Devil and Albion. The aura of both of my blades caused my rival to make his own grunt in anger as his dragon, Albion, made its voice known to the world. Vali, your rival is even more interesting than you expected. An angel, a dragon and the wielder of Ascalon. We may just have our work cut out for each other. And that's just what makes fighting so appealing. His smug smile turned to a slightly lustful one. It held a want, an extreme want to taste my blades or just the fight itself. I allowed my body to go slightly top-heavy, making my body start to drop forwards, waiting for the perfect angle to shoot myself towards my rival, Vali. A brief second passed before my body fell to the appropriate level, and I pushed off with my feet, coupled with my 6 wings shooting out of my back to propel me towards Vali. I lead with Ruler across my body and Ascalon behind me in attempt to make him deal with Ruler, giving me a free gap for Ascalon, but it was easy to see, and Vali dodged rather than take it. As I flew past him, I felt his magic build up. I skidded to a halt and flipped my body round before seeing his magic coming towards me, and I jumped away, narrowly dodging his block of white dragon magic. "Come on, Red One, fight me in hand to hand." Vali shouted out to me from across the school's courtyard. It was an obvious taunt, but it was a taunt that let out my secret. It wasn't a direct giveaway, but with what I did to Xenovia, Grafia would know what he was talking about. The grounds were quiet as I slowly dropped down to the ground. As my feet took the burden of my body's weight from my wings, I felt my wings stretch themselves. They knew I wasn't going to back out of it, and so did I. I'm reluctant to show it off, but I have no choice here. I will have to whether I want to or not. Fine, White One, let's have a proper fight. I tightened my grip on my swords as I dismissed them, balling my hands into a fist as an emerald green aura took form around my body as I was letting my dragon side slowly unseal itself. Brag, let's do it. Dragon Angel mode. You got it, Ibu, let's teach the White One who's boss. The pressure built up as my pent-up dragonic power was now bursting at the seams, feeling ecstatic that it was finally going to be used. The emerald aura intensifies and fluctuates out around my body like a searing flame, ready to burn anything in its vicinity to a crisp. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. My condensing aura of emerald light spikes and explodes before shaking like a bad transmission and reverting like an implosion onto my body, clashing against the new crimson aura that was beginning to radiate from my body. Crimson scale mail took form around my body, giving me the look of a humanoid dragon. Each scale branched off with a golden spike at each side. The 2 dragon wings flutter about before breaking apart, allowing my 6 angel wings to break through the back of my armor, and the remnants of the dragon wings latched onto my 6 angel wings, forming a crimson ridge atop each wing, and the odd crimson scale, taking the place of some of my white feathers. I slowly dropped down to the ground as our auras started to fight before we did, showing that I had the upper hand due to my genes as an angel and dragon. It seemed that Vali hadn't given up a part of his body to the dragon to become stronger. I had, and it was eating away my human half day by day. I was already at 35% from my dragon side, leaving my human side at 15%. My aura rained down on the area surrounding me in a destructive fashion as the ground was starting to be worn away by its ferocity. I had no time to waste here, I had to finish this fast and then get away before Grafia can catch me if she is going to. Boost. A single boost caused the emerald aura to intensify greatly and set fire to the ground around me. Drag, full body transfer of Ascalon. You got it, Ibu transfer. As a new layer of aura that was golden enraptured my body, I took to the skies and flew straight towards Vali. I had the distinct advantage, but from the look of my rival, he liked that fact. To be the underdog can be a good thing, but an underdog who is a battle maniac, who knows what could result from it. Upon approach I fainted as Vali had started to come towards me. I flapped my 3 left wings once while using my 3 right wings as a guide to tilt my body out of Vali's way. As Vali steamed past, I followed through and kicked into his back, further increasing his speed, breaking apart the back part of his armor and sent him towards the ground. Vali corrected himself before his body hit the ground, bringing him into a slight spin, forcing him crash slightly softer than expected on his backside, kicking up some dust. The dust blew away as a gust of wind formed with Vali in the center of it coming straight at that. He was coming straight for the punch. I brought my arms up across my body like an X and brought all over Ascalon's aura to my front to take the brunt of the damage and transfer it over to him naturally before I could do so myself. As Vali was only meters away from me, I broke my arms apart and pushed my right side forward, making my right hand take the hit and thrusted my left fist forward, narrowly grazing the white helmet. I carried on briefly and caught onto his wings. Do it, drag. Ascalon transfer. Ascalon's golden aura raged in disgust in the split second it had before being transferred over into Vali. The power in itself was massive and too much for Vali's balance breaker to take and was trying to exert it, but with my hand still on his wings, it couldn't do it effectively, allowing the Dragon Slayer properties to mercilessly attack Vali. As soon as I heard the crack, I released my grip ever so slightly, allowing my body to freely move, bringing my lower half up. I planted both of my boots straight into his chest as I let go of his wings, sending our bodies away from each other and completely blowing away his balance breaker. This time he completely crashes into the ground without support from his scale mail and kicks up even more dust than before. I start to descend down to the ground as I deactivate the helmet on my armor. A bright white light shoots out from the dust, destroying it and shoots up into the sky, passing straight through my barrier, which slowly starts to corrode away. We'll meet again, White One. I allow my own balance breaker to disappear away, bringing me back to my normal clothes, albeit with all 6 of my wings still out on show. I turned to my right and took a single step before freezing on the spot. I had a dilemma. There was a dark, almost angry pressure behind me, but in front I could feel a presence that I didn't want to see right now. Slowly tilting my head upwards, I saw the one person in my life who gave love unconditionally, but I seemed to be given it on another level. Right at this minute I don't know whether I want to wait for the incoming presence or to turn around and give myself up to Grafia. Hopefully she is just looking for an apology or could live with that. Ice-kun. A woman's voice shouted down on us from above, her body getting closer and closer by the second. All 12 of her beautiful, pristinely white wings flapped elegantly as she approached me at a blistering speed. I felt my body turn slightly upon instinct to run, but before I could actually make myself follow through, the angel hit me, more literally than I would have liked. With her speed forcing me backwards, I tumbled slightly and shot my 6 wings into the ground to keep my body up and steady, albeit at a 90-degree angle, with a woman who was slightly taller than me hugging onto me, with her voluptuous breasts firmly pressed against my chest, passing her lovely warmth onto my own body. I was engulfed into something that was very nearly a hug briefly before she got off of me and allowed me to stand back up straight, although she didn't give me much breathing room. Are you okay, Ice-kun? I felt the vanishing dragon's presence. What happened? She came here just for that. Ibu, I've told you before that Gabriel is more appropriate. More appropriate? For what? Nothing, Ibu. I need a nap. I felt Drake's presence weaken before the sound of loud snoring reached my ears. I wonder what Drake meant though. I'm fine, Gabriel Nee. Thanks to Ascalon I didn't need to push myself. Confirming my safety caused Gabriel to light up in happiness and a beautiful smile to adorn her face. No ulterior motive behind the smile. One of few people who treat me as a person rather than an asset, one of few people who is genuinely happy that I'm safe, and for good reasons. She can be pretty overbearing, but when I think about being able to have her breasts pressed against me, I can feel myself not caring anymore. She then looked past me and her expression changed. Unlike other angels or exorcists, she didn't scowl at the number of devils there. Gabriel just let her smile drop slightly, showing her displeasure, but giving them the benefit of the doubt due to me still being perfectly fine. She then turned on her heel, allowing her 12 wings to disappear back into her back and grabbed a hold of my wrist, forcing her own energy into me, forcing my wings away, and started to drag me away from the school grounds. I was dragged across the most part of town before coming to a stop at the apartment complex which Gabriel had a room at. Gabriel doesn't use it that much herself as she is typically in heaven doing whatever the archangels do, so she has near enough given it to me as my place to stay when I come to this region of Japan for jobs, not that I had ever been here for a job before. The only other time I had been here was when I lived here. What confused me was that she didn't stay. She doesn't treat me like an asset, but her leaving after getting me to a safe place makes it look like she is, and she gave no reason for leaving, she just did. Whether she had broke away from something in heaven to make sure I was safe is unknown to me, but I felt happy nonetheless, even with the lack of reasoning for her just upping and leaving. This left me alone by myself as both Irina and Xenovia were still out acquiring food and liquid for our stay here to complete our objective. I found myself lying down on the impossibly comfortable sofa, leaving the single double bed here for the two girls to use. As much as I'd like to join them, I cannot. But the whole apartment as quiet as it could be, I summoned a small voice recorder from my inner magic and pressed the play button like I did every single night. Forever keep yourself in check, my son. When I am gone you'll find yourself as the angel of temperance and you'll achieve many a great thing. I knew you for 5 days, my son, but I am with you all the way. Prove to the world that you are great and watch over it for me. With the loss of our Lord the world will fall apart and only time will tell. The recorder stopped with a click as the recording finished. The voice held a soft fatherly tone to it, it was kind and caring. This voice was only something I have heard and not seen the face of the owner. Even without seeing his face, I could tell who it was from the first word at my first time hearing it. It was a voice that resonated with my whole being, a voice that felt like my own. The recording was also rather mysterious due to it always being the last thing I hear each and every day. It somehow has the power to force me to sleep. No matter how awake and active I feel, I will always fall asleep after listening to it, and this time was just like every other. My consciousness wavered as my eyelids started to flutter, trying to keep myself awake, but like every other night, I had no chance and drifted into a blissful sleep. The night passes by like any other for me, it was as silent as it could get. I'm not necessarily a heavy sleeper, but I do not wake up for at least 5 hours after hearing the message, regardless of the noise around me. Those 5 hours of sleep was all I needed for an active day, and I wouldn't feel tired in the slightest, and I would always wake up rejuvenated. The problem there being that I'd usually wake up when everyone else was asleep. Back at the Vatican everyone was asleep before the clock reset and everyone would start rising at 7, this forced me into a training habit. I would fall asleep around 10 and wake up at 3, giving me 4 hours to train and shower, ready to cook food for when Xenovia would wake up. The food that was cooked was never anything great, but it was and still is always better than whatever Xenovia conjures, because what she brings never looks like food and has a taste to go along with it. The food in the church and even the Vatican itself was not anything special at all, basic food, so your body could get the vitamins it needed for the day, and that was it really. Very, very basic. That was one part which made me strive to be the best exorcist, if you could really call me one, while being half angel. From becoming one of the top exorcists, we got our own section consisting of training areas, a separate library and kitchen which was stocked with food. The food wasn't even 3-star level, but it was still better than the rest of the church, and luckily it held bacon, the only food a man really needs. Because of that luck of good food, Xenovia always goes all out when buying our food on our missions. What she bought was just like normal, she had bought an abundance of food because she could. After all, she can only carry so much by herself, but this time she had Irina to tag along. This arrangement was not in a sexist manner at all, sending her to gather the food and me to acquire intel. This was because she lacks finesse. She powers her way through anything. I have seen her get hostile with little old ladies when it comes to special offers or items that are very limited. She would be a great mother maybe. Our first day here ran rather slowly, just like each of my missions really. I'm not like the others who like to do a job as quickly as possible so they can return, get recognition and go on another as soon as they can. I like to take my time, feel the wind against my skin as I idly walk through town or the city, getting a feel for the place. This town was a very relaxed one, it showed no sign of actual supernatural activity, given you stayed away from Kuo Academy of course. There were ever so faint traces, but you honestly get that everywhere. For today I had sent the two girls to look around the town with their cloaks on, hoping they'd catch attention, which they obviously did, but unluckily for me it wasn't the correct one. What they attracted was just the usual we get from our missions, the strange looks from the locals. I attracted different attention. I had attracted the strongest queen during my day, but that was more of a fleeting feeling. While hers was a one-of-a-kind presence, I never once saw her when I felt it properly. As I had expected since seeing her, they were going to be keeping tabs on me and luckily not us. I don't even want to know what may happen if they find out that Xenovia holds Durandal. I only had one stop for this day, and it was to see the little Gremory girl alone, which I had to wait till night of course, to do. Thanks to being an angel, disguising my presence is very simple, but to make myself invisible in this type of place, their stronghold and in the exact same room as the supposed strongest. Nah, I shouldn't be able to do that even if she isn't mature enough to participate in raiding games, plus there is the fact that I'm younger than her. It's strange to say the least really. It took her 5 whole minutes to realize that I was sitting on the sofa in front of her, whether that was her abilities failing her or she was just too wrapped up in dealing with paperwork. I noted the sudden surprise on her face and the jolt of her body upon realizing my presence. She was quick to calm herself down from that and put on an annoyed but maybe just irritated front. "Hi-do-san, what brings you here?" "I just wanted to talk. Coming here when everyone else was here probably would have been problematic, you by yourself is completely different. That's something I can thank your blood for, you aren't so quick to judge." "I like that." Her eyebrows narrowed and upon seeing that I showed a crooked smile. "What would you like to talk about, Hi-do-san?" "You and your peerage really. I don't doubt that you are looking after Asia well, but I just want to know about the others so I can put my heart at ease. You saw me yesterday, you know my power and who I am to the church." Seeing her face yesterday brought it all back for me, that hopelessness I felt when I couldn't save her. I was glad she didn't know who I was, she was one of 3 friends I had, even if the time I spent with her was incredibly brief. Everyone here likes her and treat her one of the family, I, myself see her as a younger sister. Looking at Ria's Gremory as she spoke I could see no hinted lies, she showed no signs of going to lie at all. Honestly, she showed no ill will towards me at all despite my reputation and blood. That's very good, I'm happy for her. One final question before I change to my final topic and leave. Your knight, I know I said I won't kill him, but from what I felt yesterday, I have a feeling he might get in my way. It's not fair of me to ask for specifics Gremory-san, but please answer me this, where is his hate focused? Is it the whole or something or someone specific? She looked quite shocked that I was rather reserved in my question. I've learned that you have to be careful with words with just about anyone, but you have to be careful and exact with your enemies, because they won't answer how you want them to do if you give them wiggle room. It's a something. Her answer came in a hushed tone after a few seconds of deliberation. The way I asked the question was kind, but what I asked wasn't. I gave a general question, but with why I'm here and who I am her simple answer becomes absolutely everything I needed to know. That something would be the Excalibur or more importantly would be the Holy Sword project. A rather insane attempt to get Holy Sword users in our ranks. One that was recorded as a failure to those involved but a success to everyone outside of it. It was a success yet everyone died who was being tested there. That's way too fishy without there being an explicit point in the documents for it, saying that something went wrong. I can sympathize for him, but I'll never understand his pain. There is one thing though that I'll have to slightly disagree on. Ria's Gremory's answer should not have been something but someone, the person who was behind the whole thing. Something huh? How wrong can your knight be, especially when he himself uses a sword? Wrong? What do you mean? Ria's voice now held an inquisitive tone. She was now interested in my side, something that I had hoped for. You don't have to be a blade practitioner to know that swords and the like do not have a minds of their own. But for someone who is one to not understand that is impossible. What are you getting at Hi-do-san? Ria spoke to me with an irritated voice and a slight sigh at the end. It seems I'm encroaching on not being wanted here now, I best be quick and finish my point before I'm attacked. My point is Gremory-san that your knight is too surrounded in his own hate to realize what rather who he should be angry at. A sword cannot do as it pleases, a sword can't be blamed for the crime, but the one who wielded it can be. You're saying that Udo should be angry at someone instead. Exactly, and that someone is Valper Galilei, the genocide archbishop. He was excommunicated after the church finally looked at the things I had found. The Holy Sword project happened around the same time as Asia-chan's incident, so it obviously took my attention despite my young age. It was only a year ago that it was dealt with. The whole experiments have been scrapped due to it, so your knight can take a little piece from that. Fortunately there have been rumors that Valper Galilei is working with Cacabiel, so he could very well be here. I stood up from the chair and walked over to the window and opened it completely. Bringing my right foot onto the windowsill so I could jump out, I turned to look at Riaz who was looking a little taken back by the news. Gremory-san, you tell your knight all this and that his hate is misdirected. If he takes that to heart and see right from wrong, tell him to find me or my girls and explain to them. Then I will allow him to enact his revenge and keep his involvement out of my report. Is that alright with you, Gremory-san? Remember from yesterday that this will only come to him if he stays out of our way for the rest of it and only getting in the way to tell us that he now understands. Just so you know, I will use magic against him to tell whether he is using the truth or lies. I turned away from Ria's and placed my hands on the wall, getting ready to propel myself out of the room. Good day to you, Gremory-san, hopefully for your sake that this will be the last time we meet. End of the part 1. So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.